Now, one of my favorite studies, aside from reading books of survival in Antarctica, is reading books of people scaling Mount Everest. What I love about that is it's teams in the highest stressful scenario with the highest possible consequence. Not that I'm death obsessed or anything like that. The fact is, you're seeing humans individually and collectively as a team in the most extreme cases, which is why Antarctica and Mount Everest study has always been my favorite two topics to read about. If you look to somebody who scaled Mount Everest and survived and got down and written books about it and inspired the world, there's a whole series of different things, and these would absolutely line up to the world of sales or leading a sales team. Number one, you need perfect planning. Perfect planning down to the singular day that you're going to scale the final climb in that death zone to 8,848 meters. Number two, you need to train as a team long before you show up to the Himalayas. For most people, it's about a 5, possibly 10-year training program before they scale to the top of Mount Everest. Number three, you've got to have multiple support people. Typically, westernized travelers who spend a lot of money, normally about 75,000 US dollars, they'll have porters who carry some of what they need. They'll have a team leader. They'll have people back at base down on the mountain. And overseas, they would have had a support crew to get them to that particular point. Number four, you have to acclimatize. You have to acclimatize in the years building up. You have to acclimatize in the month building up to scaling. And even during your climb, as you go from camp 1 to camp 2 to camp 3, you might go to camp 4 and back to camp 3 again before you push for the summit. Fact is, you've got to acclimatize. You've got to train your body and your mind, at least your lungs, to get used to the idea of performing at the highest possible level. And then, of course, in the moment, you have to take action. You have to reach for a handhold or reach for a foothold or look ahead and adjust because of the snowdrift or because of the wind or because of somebody who's climbing on the mountain at the same time, which sound just like competitors competing to get to the top. Likewise, for example, you've got to get feedback from people who are proven. There's no good you taking advice from somebody sitting at home who's through the internet or satellite telephones telling you where to put your handholds. There are people on the mountain who've been there before. There's people who've observed hundreds, if not thousands of people being there before, and they've got to give you tips and advice such as we break here, you drink here, you eat here, you go here, you descend now. And if you get all of that right, you get to be one of those few people who stand on the highest point on planet Earth and, more importantly, able to scale back down again. Now, if you apply all of those processes to sales, for a high-performing sales team, for you to scale your Mount Everest, you're likely going to need to go through that checklist as well. What are you doing in your planning and strategy? What have you done in terms of acclimatization and advanced training? What are you doing for the regular feedback loops? What are you doing for that proven advice and guidance? How are you seeking that mentorship? Who's helping to be that sales support or porter to get you up and get you off the mountain again? So ultimately in sales, it is like scaling Mount Everest, whether that's achieving their annual goals or winning a breakthrough client or winning a project that's going to change your future. Think of it like Mount Everest and hold yourself to those high standards. That's partly why I love it. Now, this is what we're ultimately seeing right around the world. Now, one caution I'll mention, with probably about 2/3 of you attending today being Australian-based, because roughly 2/3 of our customers and our database are in Australia, you guys are doing it tougher now than typically anyone's done it in Australia tough for the last 20 years. Now, there's a lot of economic reasons behind that. Obviously, you didn't suffer from the global financial crisis like other countries did, like New Zealand and America and Europe, for example. You were very blessed through that 2008 to 2010 period when compared to other people. What that's left is a bunch of business owners or sales managers or salespeople who haven't had to weather the storms that they're facing right now. And sadly, that often drives us to be a little bit desperate. So what we're finding in Australia, more than elsewhere, it's new. I'm not saying it's any tougher. I'm not saying it's any worse. I'm not saying people are less educated. They're simply less experienced at weathering the storm. New Zealand seems to go through an economic crisis, or certainly a confidence crisis in business, the moment the Fonterra or dairy payout is low. Despite the fact that most businesses in New Zealand are not directly related to the dairy sector, the fact that people's moods rises and falls on that means that business owners and sales managers in New Zealand are used to motivating teams, used to fighting back where the conversion rate is low because confidence is low. But time and again, we're seeing people in leadership right now identifying problems, grabbing something to do, which again, better you do something than do nothing, because at least the something has a consequence that could be a good one. And unfortunately, it half works. So therefore, they pick up the next thing because the first strategy they took on board to fix things didn't fundamentally fix things. So then they grab the next silver bullet and go, well, I'm going to run with that for 6 months. I'm going to run with that for 6 months. And you, like me, will have heard and read stories and metaphors about the fact that, when you think about a particular type of bamboo, for the first 4 years, it grows roots below the surface and there is no progress. So if you were to plant that bamboo in your garden, if you were to judge it on the first 4 years of payback, you'd look at it thinking, rubbish, let's just cut it down, let's just chop it out of the ground, let's pour weed killer on it. But again, from year 5 onwards, it grows at a meter a year for years and years and years, becomes some of the strongest bamboo on the planet. You'll have heard stories like that, like Isaac Newton knew. Every single thing we do has a consequence. So ultimately, you've got to pick the right strategies and you've got to stick with them. So if you're only half committed to the strategy, that's probably not going to give you the payback in itself. Plus, you're slightly fatigued when adopting a new strategy. Plus, you'll also think about the new strategy. Well, the last one didn't fully work. So I guess we don't need to fully commit to this one because at the end of the day, the last one didn't fully work. So again, boots and all, you need to commit to taking the right action with the right partners beside you, with the right team aligned with you, and the other departments on board, which I'll talk about as a mistake later on.